This morning, 747,000 people across Canada woke up and embarked on today's journey of living well with a cognitive impairment. Why is it that stories about cognitive impairment rarely, if ever, begin this way? Most headlines sound like this: the biggest epidemic in history, a mind robber that reduces victims to a state of living death, the scale of which is becoming a national burden, crisis, and threat. In hearing this headline, doctors might ask, how do we fight cognitive impairment? How do we cure it? Nurses might ask, how do we manage the behaviors and medical needs of all these people? And we all know that politicians would definitely ask, how much is this going to cost? These are all important questions, but I am a social worker. My research looks at how we can empower older adults with a cognitive impairment to live well in the most holistic sense of this term, while taking into account the biological realities of diseases, such as Alzheimer's, Lewy body, and vascular dementia. In particular, I am interested in that first, initial interaction between a professional and a person who may or may not have a cognitive impairment. At this time, screening and diagnosis take center stage. We ask questions such as, can you count backward from 100 by sevens for me? In fact, we've been asking the same questions for 45 years. While these questions have clinical value, the main reason we still use them is convenience. They give us an easy script to follow and give the person a score out of 30. However, cognitive impairment is far more complex than that. My research shows how these questions are the first in a series of disconnections that reduce the person to the symptoms of their disease, to a body and a brain. And eventually, these bodies and brains start piling up in hospital hallways and long-term care homes, locked away in memory wards. So, where do we go from here? Research shows that the questions that we ask about cognitive impairment matter. The language we use matters. My research will support professionals in asking better questions, ones that build trust, acknowledge the complexity of the disease, and empower the person to continue to live well even after diagnosis. This is the first step to transformative change. Thank you.